Welcome to the Cedar Harvest Show. This is one of our law enforcement editions. I'm super excited to introduce one of our co-hosts, Officer Ty, long-time 18-year law enforcement veteran here in Arizona. He's got all the same concerns that you do. We're going to start peeling it back, folks. This is episode 1 of a long line of future conversations of what you have access to and what you don't know. Welcome to the Cedar Harvest Law Enforcement Edition. Our primary mission is to help law enforcement officers understand their government benefits to the fullest extent possible, while also learning about the financial tools to help you and your family. This is an educational podcast where we will bring a variety of financial professionals, pension professionals, and everyday law enforcement officers, like Officer Ty here. So our goal is to have an open conversation that simplifies the learning process. Currently sitting here with the co-host, Officer Ty, and currently an Arizona law enforcement officer. So welcome. Thank you. All right. It's weird, right?
It is weird.
It's different. So I know this is kind of a change of pace for you from what you normally do every day.
I normally sit in front of them talking to people.
Yeah. You're used to putting out the spotlight, not being in the spotlight, right?
True. Yep.
Right. So now here you are.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing what you're doing?
So October will be 18 years, all of it in Arizona. Basically why I moved to Arizona was become a police officer. So yeah, 18 October.
Wow, 18 years. All right. Well, we've kind of got to know each other through the circles of life, and it's interesting how I've got a lot of family that almost all of my dad's family is somehow involved in law enforcement.
Yeah.
I personally never have been, but I feel like I have been because I've just been surrounded by, federal officers, and state officers, and county and municipal officers. So it's just kind of just in our blood.
Yeah.
I think it was my great grandfather was county sheriff way back in the day, back in the old West days. So, our involvement in law enforcement is it's generational.
Okay.
So I've always had a kind of a passion for understanding that community because I've just grown up with that community, right? Those are my cousins and family. Yeah. It's just kind of just what they do. I, on the other hand, have always kind of pursued a self-employment path, and with the degree in finance, I've always still been intrigued with money and money management, and it's always been very intriguing to me how the government pensions and all the different benefits that attract. I would assume that's why a lot of people get into these government positions are the benefits.
It's funny because it's not really, not to go too deep.
Please go deep.
I didn't grow up wanting to be a police officer. I have nobody in my family that was in law enforcement, either side of the family. It was really 9/11 is what kind of directed me in that path.
Really?
Yeah. So 9/11 happened. I was kind of at a point in my life where I didn't really know what to do or what I wanted to do. Like I went to college thinking I wanted to do marketing, and then I started doing it in college, and I was like, nah, I don't really like this. So I was kind of, I don't know what the best term is, but I really had no direction to know what I wanted to do. So then 9/11 happened. My initial thought was to join the military. That's what I wanted to do right away, but at the time, I had a kidney disorder that's since been resolved. But at the time, I had a kidney disorder, so none of the branches would take me.
Disqualified.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well,
and it's crazy because they were pretty much taking everybody. So shows you how.
I didn't. I've known one other person that's encountered something like that. It seemed like it was something trivial to them, but it was a big deal to them.
It was, and it was and the thing that really kind of, looking back is even more irritating about it is I really got really focused on diet and exercise and pretty much solved the problem myself. And to this day, I have no remnants of it. There's nothing. It doesn't affect me anymore. I was just probably 4 years, last year in high school, and then a couple years after.
Sounds like Nighthawk to me.
Yeah, Nighthawk fixed it.
Or created it.
Yeah. Well,
maybe I have to get rid of Nighthawk.
I have some suspicions about what it was, and I think it was, I played football. I played all the sports, but I played football, and we used to pop ibuprofens like they were Tic Tacs, like during football, and ibuprofens are horrible for your kidneys. So I think it has something to do with that but I don't know that for a fact, but
Sure.
so that took me down that path. And then I was still back home, and then I moved to Nebraska to live with my aunt to finish college with the intention of going federal, like FBI, something like that. That was what I wanted to do. And I was bartending at the time, and one of the local PD guys came in, and we were just shooting the shit like we are right now. And he was like, well, have you ever thought about doing like a local PD? And I hadn't at that point. And my one hesitation with the federal side of things was always like, it's going to be really hard to have a family, or at least like a normal family life. Because a lot of the time, especially FBI or some of the things I wanted to do, they travel a lot. And you're going to be, it's going to be hard. It's not impossible, but it's going to make things more difficult to have a family. But then the local PD was interesting because then you're set in one place. Like you pick a department and you're there. As long as you stay there, that's where you're at. They're not going to be transferring you to other states or wherever. So
My dad was transferred to Bakersfield, Arizona.
And that was the thing when I was really looking into this. The FBI was the number one thing I was looking at, and I don't know if it's changed. I'm sure it hasn't changed much, but it was like you go to the Quantico, and once you're done there, you're either going to New York or LA right away. And then it's going to, if you want to get back to some place other than those two places, it's going to take you probably 8 years to do it. Like, so you got to live there, work there for, 8 years or whatever. And then if you want to go somewhere else, it's not going to be right away. So, or you can get sent overseas. That was one of the other careers I was looking at, was one where you're like, you're probably going to go somewhere other than the U.S., and it's going to be extended for a while. So just be aware that that's the route you want to take.
Yeah, that makes it hard on a family.
Yeah. And
you want to have a family.
Exactly. And that's kind of why I was like, do I want to be Mr. Single my whole life, or do I want to have a family? So
it makes sense then why a lot of my family have chosen the career paths they have, because they have, a lot of them stayed local.
Yeah.
Primarily in Pinal County area.
Yeah.
And it really, I didn't understand why some, I think, a lot of my federal law enforcement family, it's all in the immigration, which is started off INS, but now Homeland Security.
Yeah.
But, I just never realized how people chose one branch over another. Why go county over city? I just assumed, personally being an outsider, I just kind of, I didn't know what the logic path was there, what went into their decision, other than maybe having an in to get the job.
See, and I guess I don't know how to answer that either, because I knew nothing about law enforcement, like not a thing. So I didn't have a reason that I picked. Like when I was applying for departments, I wanted to work for a bigger department. I wanted to work for a department that wasn't in the snow. So I looked at, I applied to Dallas, I applied to San Diego, I applied here. I actually applied to Scottsdale first, and initially I didn't understand that Phoenix was the big city. I thought it was Tempe, because I had no idea. I knew nothing about Arizona other than the Grand Canyon. So when I was applying, I thought Tempe was the big city.
So people in Wisconsin think that Tempe's the big city?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't know. I knew literally the Phoenix Suns and ASU and the Grand Canyon. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else about.
It's funny.
Yeah. But I'd been to San Diego, and like I had looked at like some of the really big departments like New York and LAPD, but I also did like kind of a cost analysis thing. I were like, this is what they get paid. This is how much it costs to live there. And it wasn't very good. And actually that's why San Diego, I kind of trailed off on that one, because it was kind of the same thing. It was like, they don't get paid the best starting, and it's still pretty hard, pretty high cost of living. But when I was applying, Phoenix, based on what you started making and how much it costs to live here, and same thing with Dallas, were actually it was good. Like you made good money starting off, and it was not very expensive to live here. Granted, it's gotten more so now. It's harder. Like if you're starting now, it's a lot different than when I started. But
and now you blinked, and it's 18 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty happy with the job. Are you? Been a good happy pass.
There's frustrations with it, but overall, yes. I've enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. Like I like catching bad guys, so I still enjoy the job. So,
well, it sure seems like cops have taken a beating publicly with all the public scrutiny It's been I commend you for sticking with it. I don't know how so many of you guys stay with it when people are talking so much shit as they do.
Yeah.
It's especially coming from a family that's generations of law enforcement and seeing that these are all really good, hardworking dudes. And not to say that what profession out there doesn't have people doing wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just like cops doing wrong. It's just, but it seems like they really kind of
It takes one, and it's just one,
and made you guys look like bad guys, and damn well 99.9% are good human beings.
Yeah.
So, here you are, 18 years later. We started talking a little bit once you found out that I was in the financial space and help people with different things and what I did with my girls pertaining to most people are very unfamiliar with the financial world, period.
Yeah.
They definitely don't understand the various financial tools, and then you go throwing in anything that's government related, then it just makes it extremely more complex.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole different set of rules and regulations, and so there's professionals that are out there, and I know you guys have. I've actually spoken with the company who's been tasked with training the Arizona Police Department, police officers, whatever, because you're in a different. What is the different pension system you're part of?
It's a good question. So
it's Arizona law. Is it law enforcement?
Yeah, it's
it's Arizona Public Safety. I forget the name.
P. It's like the PSPRS, I think, or the.
Well, either way, it's been interesting to learn. It's the one thing that's been consistent with a lot of my conversations with my family.
Yeah.
Is there's only been like one or two who really kind of felt like they had a clear handle on their retirement, right? On their plan, how this pension worked out. I have heard a lot of things like, well, I'm part of the old system versus the new system.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what
that's me. I'm part of the old, like if you got hired today, you're in the 25-year track, but I'm in the grandfather to the 20-year, and it's a more pension style. Now it's a more 401k style for like people that are getting hired now. I think it was like 2009 is when they switched it, something like that.
Seems like I've heard that people aren't really thrilled about that. They like the old style of pension better, I've heard, but I don't know if that's accurate, and that's just kind of what I've heard.
I mean, I think it's hard to say. I think that the system that I'm under is better.
Yeah, that's what seems like people from that system.
It seems like, you can stop earlier, but also the drop program, I'm pretty positive new hires are not allowed to do the drop program, which is a good benefit for us. Like that's in my position, like still in the 20 track, I can leave at 20, but you can do the drop program, which I don't think new hires I want to say 2019, maybe it wasn't that long ago where they switched it to the 25-year 401k style. And I'm almost positive you're not allowed to do drop in that track that you're in. It's like I think we're tier 1. And then I think they're tier 3, I think is how they term it in the retirement system.
Well, that's one of the things with this podcast over time. I look forward to kind of peeling back and getting a better, we hope to kind of help bring some clarity.
Yeah.
Because if there's, again, it seems like most police officers I've run into, are just law enforcement officers. They're really kind of confused. They know that they've got that 20-year mark to get to or 25-year mark. But they really don't understand what happens post-retirement, right?
Yeah.
What happens to these benefits? How do they really affect you? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of, I don't know what I'd argue corporate-wise, the cooler talk, or you're sitting around the cooler talk.
Yeah.
You got all these people who have a financial advisor, this and that, and I don't hear that from any of my family. It doesn't seem like it seems like everybody's just kind of looking to the government HR platform to be their financial advisor. And so they ultimately retire by like, well, this is what I get. And they didn't really start asking the questions back 10, 15 years ago when they should have.
That's why I think I fall into that. I probably should have been more diligent with understanding this stuff more. And I still don't really understand. Not as close as I am to retirement when I can retire, I should probably know more about this stuff than I do. And it does seem like, and it's funny because the guys that you have two sets. You have the newer people and some of the people that are, maybe 10 years or less. They don't talk about any of this stuff, because in their eyes, they still got 15 years before they can worry about it.
It's forever.
And that's kind of how I was. Like, I should have been more on it probably 10 years ago, like really started to think about this stuff. And I know one thing that I regret not doing was our deferred comp that we have is not pumping more money into that at the very beginning. But then you talk to guys who are in my level that are like getting close to retirement. Like this is like all they talk about. Like, okay, like I work with guys now, all they talk about is working overtime shifts to get their pension raised up. So they're, when they leave at 20, they're, they want to hit certain numbers as far as what they take home, and they can track that on our pension website, like where you're at, like, because they do the high 3 stuff, and they can track where, if I make this much this year, or if I have to make this much, because like for example, one guy in my squad is like that, where he has it tracked out that if he works however many hours it is of overtime, it factors out to this amount of money, which will put his pension that he'll get at this level, and that's where he's trying to get to. So right now that's his focus, is like, okay, I need to hit this many hours a week in overtime or supplemental shifts to hit this number. That'll put me at retirement at this number.
Is that because he's paying more in, or is that just because they take the last year of highest 3 earning years? Is it kind of like they education like that? I don't know.
They take high 3 consecutive. It's funny because that's switched too. Like when I started, it was the high 3 years consecutively, and then for a while there, it was just high 3. So they would just take your high 3 years and be like, okay. Then they
of all 20.
Yeah, of all 20. But then they switched it back to the consecutive. So it's 3 consecutive years, your highest
average,
and then they average it. So obviously working more, getting more overtime and we call supplemental, some of the fill-in, because we're so short-staffed. Like we have to fill in shifts for squads who don't have enough people. But doing that then in turn raises your high 3 number, and that's what he's in the end of his. He's got, I think next May is when he can retire, so he's doing everything he can to get that high 3 number up, which in turn raises his take home that he'll get when he retires.
Well, it's definitely a complex system. It's not straightforward.
Yeah.
Right. Which makes it really challenging, I'm sure, when that's not what you do for a living.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not like you sit around and talk about that stuff. So, again, I look forward to kind of peeling back and helping and working with and talking with other law enforcement officers and agencies and these different systems and marrying up you guys with financial professionals to have, a little deep dive conversation on what makes sense. Because obviously, just because what's good for you doesn't mean it's good for your buddies and somebody else. Everybody has a unique life.
Yeah.
Some are married, some aren't, some have kids, some don't. Right.
Yep.
Everybody has a different philosophy. Some people want to leave money. What I've seen, just from the human standpoint, some people want to leave money to their kids. Some people don't. They want to spend every dime. They want their kids to earn their own way because that's the way you learn in life.
Yeah.
And everybody's different. I think you and I are like-minded in the sense where we really want to help our kids out, right? Financially. I mean, why not get them off on the right foot?
Yeah.
We did end up putting a contract on your daughter, just the same contract we put on my daughters. And, I assume after hearing kind of what kind of returns we were getting on Sydney and Natalie's policies, that kind of was intriguing, knowing that was that we went into a very conservative, what's called dollar cost averaging strategy. And that's one of the things I was hoping to talk to you about today, but maybe we'll save that for another day, of what we did, how we did the same thing and why, of starting a life insurance contract on your daughter. Why did that make sense? You didn't do it for a death benefit.
Yeah.
Right. You're not doing it for that purpose. Reality is it's a tax play. You at the end of the day, that's what it was about.
Yeah.
That's the primary focus. I would assume that was attractive to you.
Yeah.
Of all the things we talked about, was to avoid future tax risk, and not knowing what our government's going to be doing.
Yeah. 30,
40, 50 years from now. So it's just another tool, right? And so I look forward to, I want to help everybody, especially the law enforcement community, understand the difference in these financial tools. For some people, life insurance contract might make sense. Others, it won't make sense.
Yeah.
Right? It's not for everybody, but it is for a lot of people. And once you kind of understand that there's a lot more to it other than death benefit, that's what I do and what I specialize in, what I try to focus on understanding and help manipulate, but also educate, because you should be buying it for the benefits side, not just the investment portion. The investment side is definitely there. Compound interest is real.
Yeah.
And reality is if you can bring in compound interest without losses, interest over interest, not year after year after year, when you fast forward 50 years, which seems like forever, but almost 50 this year, man. It's crazy.
Well, like you said before, the 18 years in the department is, I kid. Yeah. Gone. So.
Yeah. So, I look forward to explaining more of what you've done, why you did it, and also, helping you figure out your pension and helping other people ask questions, hopefully giving people a platform to call and ask questions and get a real layman's answer versus hearing it from a financial professional. Reality is I realize there's great support through the state. They've hired sounds like a pretty good outfit to provide education, and I know that they're taking proactive steps, but when you're talking, I just think there's probably, it's good to hear multiple, there's two sides to every story.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you need to hear other people's opinions, I would say, too.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it helps coming from people who aren't, I guess just people that aren't necessarily trying to sell you something too. Like, I feel like, I don't know if that's the right way to term it, but somebody that's in their position, and their reasons why they're doing it. Like, for example, for me, like why I decided to do it. Because like you said, it's not going to work for everybody. It's not going to be a fit for everybody. But
yeah,
maybe somebody.
Well, the reality is, and especially for someone you already have a lot of benefits for yourself. It doesn't mean those benefits, are there for your family.
Yeah.
Right. At least while you're here, I realize the pension you can do you can have it where your spouse can continue on. But I don't think it can continue on for your child, nor can you start putting away for retirement for your child. Right. That's still a transfer of wealth conversation that's worth having a conversation about. But again, that's my focus, and that's what I'm going to bring to the table. But I'm more excited to have conversations with other financial professionals to hear how these tools work.
Yeah.
Because I do not know. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't claim to be. That's just being real.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what I have. So